Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our Horizen Weekly Insider number 60. Today is October the 5th, and happy Monday to you all. We are live now on YouTube and Discord, and we also want to let you know that this call would be available for you to check out later in our podcast. Also, please remember to be asking your questions on Menti so we can have our good Q&A session at the end. I'll pass the word now to Luca to give us the engineering updates. Luca, please.
Thank you, Angie, and hello, everybody. I'm here with Alberto Garofalo, so we are ready to provide you all the updates related to engineering. And we'll start again, like last week, with the ZenD, and in particular, the new version, which is going to be named 2022 for the next upcoming deprecation. So, Alberto, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Luca. Okay, so let's go through the updates and starting from, as you said, from the main chain changes. So we will have the next deprecation release, and we have 6 improvements that were, let me say, related to the code audit that we had in the previous month. So we have been working on that, and they have been implemented. So we already reviewed all of them and tested them, and everything seems fine. So for currently, we are moving on checking and verifying, also testing on mainnet that everything is working properly. So the next steps about ZenD after the deprecation is related to the halving, and in particular, we are going to. We made already some checks that everything is working properly, but we would like also to extend some unit tests and integration tests. Just let me say as a double check. Regarding Zendu, so the sidechain enabled release of ZenD. We are detailing the design of the implementation of the seized sidechain withdrawals, the main chain backward transfer requests, and the configurable certificate additional data. I mean, this part were not yet being included in the previous sidechain release of Zendu, but these are going to be included in the next one. So we need to have a detailed design, and this is what we are going to bootstrap in the next days. Okay, let's switch to the sidechain SDK. So currently we are working on the pending pull requests review, and so this will probably take some other days for sure. And also, in parallel, we are working also on the modifications for the sidechain transaction commitment tree. The previous version was not using the correct hash function and other things like that. So we are currently working on it to make it let me say, compatible with the final Zendu and the Latus model. And always related to this one, to the Zendu final model, we are also implementing the UTXO Merkle tree, because we are going to have the state in the sidechain represented with let me say, this big UTXO Merkle tree, or boxes Merkle tree. So we are currently working on that, and this is something that will go on also for the next week. Okay, let's talk about the proving system. The last week we spoke about the estimates of performances, and so based on that estimates, we have started describing in details all the circuits that are involved in providing the final block proof. So as you can imagine, this is quite a huge work, because there are many many elements, that many circuits that are involved in the final block proof, and you can imagine even more in the final consensus epoch certificate proof. So, but this is very useful to have a detailed analysis. I mean, first, for sure, because it's needed for proceeding with the circuit implementation, but also will give us also the opportunity to say, the chance to see what are the needed changes in the implementation related to the optimization that we have identified so far. For example, how we manage the amortization, how these affect merging proofs, and so on. What do we have to carry on as data? So, I mean, this is quite specific stuff, but just to provide an idea. Always related to the proving system, we had some first results of the GPU on using the GPU for multiscalar multiplications, and they are very promising. Currently, the estimates comparison were made against an algorithm that on CPU, but that algo was not so optimized. So before providing some numbers, we want to verify the real improvement ratio, let me say, compared to an optimized CPU algo. Just so we will have, let me say, a more detailed and reliable numbers. Last is related to the paper, and that finally, the Latus decentralized actors reward model. The review of the paper is done. So we're currently beautifying it, but this other huge work is finished. And I think that's all.
That's great. And also we are going to have probably, of course, other people will mention later, but we're going to have a quarterly live stream on Wednesday. So it will be another good occasion to see all the recent developments that were done and achieved under engineering. That's it for now. See you later for engineering related questions.
Thank you, Luca and Alberto. Let's continue with Spencer for the Helpdesk report.
Thank you, Angie. Helpdesk performance metrics and graphics are being posted to the channel. Helpdesk customer satisfaction for the past 7 days was 4.23 of a possible 5.0. There were 71 Helpdesk issues in the last 7 days, with ZenHub accounting for the majority. Highlights for the ZenHub issues were VPN usage, Zen address verification, duplicated user IP addresses. Other ticket highlights were Sphere by Horizen account recovery issues, blocks jump game payments, and we supported the following languages this week: English, Spanish, Russian, French, and Indonesian. Back to you.
Thank you, Spencer. Let's continue with Jonathan for the growth updates.
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday. So on the growth side, we have a couple metrics to go over. So we'll start with emails. We're seeing about week over week the same as we saw last week. We saw about a 1% growth in our mailing list. Pretty good for just a 7-day span. We saw a nice jump in new wallet downloads this past week. It was 14.5% growth week over week. So pretty nice there. I'm still investigating why we had such a big spike. In terms of new faucet users, we saw an even bigger spike. We saw a 22.5% increase in new faucet users this week versus last week. In terms of referrals, which is basically people sending a link to the ZenHub community hub to their friends, we saw a 13% increase week over week. So nice increases across the board. And we're seeing record low fraud activity in the whole history of the ZenHub. We're seeing low single-digit fraud, and that's being very conservative. So in addition to that, the growth team is also working on HDE referrals. So we should have our first delivery at the end of next week to test within the team. And we're also working on general web dev maintenance tasks. So for example, we launched the DeFi page last week, and this week we should be launching a webinar landing page. That's it for me. Thanks, everyone. I think Gustavo's not on the call today, so skip over him.
Thank you, Jonathan. Let's continue with Rowan for the BD and operations updates.
Hey, Angie. I don't see Rowan here, so I will.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Vano.
So yeah, BD team is focusing on firming up our relations with our current partners, as well as continuing the dev shop and design partner outreach. We're also working with a very interesting and popular third-party blockchain analytics company, and the integration should go live during, I think, this month. Also, personally, I am continuing work on our internal on-chain metrics and KPI analytics, and the initial work looks pretty good. We also have a great new partner announcement upcoming for the live stream, and I'm very much looking forward to it. We might even have more than that, but unfortunately, I cannot share more publicly, and that's it for me. Back to you, Angie.
Thank you, Vano. Let's continue with Lucy for the marketing updates.
Thank you, Angie. Hi, everyone. Happy Monday and happy October. So we started the October really strong. So in this past week, we saw a really good increase in our developer growth. Last week's growth is bigger than the week before. We had a 1.8% increase in our early adopter program enrollment, doubled the week before. And 7.8% increase on HDE user signups, and all that brings our total developer growth to 4.9%. And then our webinar viewership has also increased by 17.5% since last week. Other than that, other than just the increase on the size, we also see a good engagement from the developers also. So open rate for our developer emails is 46%, and click rate is over 26%, which is quite high. So really excited to see more and more developers are interested in using our Zendoo SDK. And in order to make things easier and more helpful for people to learn and use our SDK, we are in a process of creating a one-stop page on our website where people can access everything they need to start building. It will include the webinar or the tutorials, the videos, documentation. So you don't need to look around and hunt for things all over the place. And move to events. Rob will be on an online conference tomorrow called the Futurism Forum. It is an international online conference on AI, cybersecurity, and blockchain. Rob will be on a panel discussion, and also he will give a speech. There are also a couple of podcasts scheduled this month. We will share all of them on our social media, so stay tuned. And as Lucas just mentioned, we will share more detailed updates and important announcements in our next quarterly live stream on YouTube, which will be this Wednesday at 5 p.m. UTC or 1 p.m. US Eastern Time. So we have a lot of exciting updates and news to share. Make sure that you mark your calendar, and we hope to see you on Wednesday. That's all from me. Back to you, Angie.
Thank you, Lucy. Now let's welcome Rosario for product and engineering updates.
Happy Monday, guys. This is Rosario. So as Lucy, great to hear about the growth numbers for developers signups. Now we'll have to still figure out how to make them take some actions. So this I mentioned this last week, and it's going to be a continuous effort just to make sure that we have the engagement and also the participation by the developer community. And we're still in the early phases, the early adopter phases, but that's going to be something that we continuously work on. So something just to supplement some things that Alberto mentioned. We are also working on a Rosetta integration, and that's something just to aid with Coinbase possible listing. So we are dedicating resources to go through that integration, and very happy with the progress. And we should have that complete in the next couple weeks. So we have that moving forward. Alberto mentioned the ZenD activity. We have several projects. So we have the maintenance of the blockchain, the ZenD. We have the proving system, which is the is going to provide the performance measures, transaction throughputs for our sidechain system. And he also mentioned the extended model, which is kind of the special sauce of our SDK in using the recursive snarks. So that's also ongoing. And of course, continuous improvements on the base model that's out there. So just to add to all that activity, also we have an ongoing effort of creating a tokenization sidechain, and that's something that Paolo has been working on for the last couple of weeks, and very happy with the progress. And this is open source, so you guys can check it out as well. And Luigi is working on our sidechain node management system. And right now he's breaking stuff. So he's making sure that we have stable sidechains, that it's that we're have an easy process to launch nodes. And so he's done a great job identifying some fixes to the documentation. And then also he found a bug. So that's awesome that he did that. And then we continue expanding the documentation just to make it easier for developers. And then something that Lucy and I will be holding hands on is going to be on making sure that we have sufficient information for developers to take actions and maybe even post a sidechain creation node on Task on HCE, where developers can build their own infrastructure type of sidechain. So it could be specific voting system or something along the lines that it could show a proof of concept, but more to come on that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rosario. Rolf, would you like to add any comments or updates?
Yeah, the progress on the sidechains and the SDK is wonderful, and I just had the opportunity to record episode 3 and 4 for the voiceover. So looking forward to those videos coming out. There's some great technical content in them. Was thinking that we may want to also take the opportunity, it's probably in the later versions of the tutorials, but to, just like we're doing on the back end for creating an SDK, even though creating a front end for accessing the blockchain is pretty straightforward through the APIs and other stuff like that, you might want to think about creating a few different front ends to make it easy for people to copy, and that way we kind of have a standard look and feel on the front end for accessing the blockchains, the side chains. Thanks.
Thank you, Rolf, and now let's welcome Rob for the final part and Q&A session.
Thanks, Angie. And let's see. So there's a lot going on this week, as you've heard from the team. Me personally, I'm going to be speaking at the Futurism Forum tomorrow. Like Lucy said, I have the interview with Girl Gone Crypto right after this in 10 minutes. So I have to keep it kind of short. And Liad and her team on Horizen Labs are revamping how Horizen Labs does their team calls. So what we're going to do there, because we've been talking about revamping these calls, just streamlining them, is we'll see how that goes on the Horizen Labs side. If we like it, then we're going to try it out here, just to shuffle things up a little bit and see if we can make these a little bit more succinct and to the point, but I think we're already doing a pretty good job. A couple of big items, and one is that Fundstrat, an equity research firm in Manhattan, also they do crypto research for select projects. They have released a report on Horizen and looking at Zen from an investor perspective. And the report is available now to their subscribers. So if you want to check it out, you can go to Fundstrat and subscribe and check out the report. If not, that's okay, because it will be made public. I just don't have a date for it yet. But it's a great report reviewing the project. They've assessed the project from a valuation perspective, looking at a range of valuations to get some sort of idea of reasonableness for where they think the project should be valued. I could just say a hint more than it is here, but obviously valuation is not our thing. what they did was they looked at, number one, if we are competing to take away some business from big tech, and we talk about data privacy and being able to do apps on our ecosystem. Well, apps are done on other platforms today. And they did that as a first look to see where would that place us in terms of users, user growth, and so forth within a valuation framework of where you would expect big tech platforms to be. And then on the other end, not surprisingly, on the very high end, you have a comparative look at other crypto projects and comparing across different dimensions that they can compare, at least try to do an apples to apples comparison to extrapolate some comparative value. And then they come up with a range of where they think we should be. So it's a good overview of the project. They have a little bit of a different take on what's going on in terms of value prop, but I think it's a very fresh way of looking at it and different. And it's always interesting to see how other people are, look at what we're doing and what they come away with it. So anyway, check it out if you can. If not, we will do what we can to facilitate making it public in the near future. A little tentative FOMO beyond just an investment report is we've been alluding for some weeks now that we have this big partnership on the centralized and decentralized finance intersection in the industry. And it's with a very well-established crypto project. That news should be going public this week. So again, apologize for not being able to say it right now like I wanted to, but there were just a couple of rounds of interviews going back and forth with journalists for one of the big media outlets, and it'll be worth it, delaying the announcement to let them publish first, and then we'll be able to talk about it here. But could not be more excited, and it really shows from a business development perspective where we're doing a bit of a hard pivot here as a project, and how we do BD is focusing on these types of within industry partnerships. I think that have huge payoff for leveraging our infrastructure, leveraging our tools in the ecosystem. So anyway, I'll stop here. We can open it up to some Q&A.
Thank you, Rob. Angie had to jump off the call, so I will take from here. Okay, so we have questions. So the top question of the day is, what improvements are being made to the SDK, if any?
It's a great question for Alberto. You want to jump in, Alberto?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if call them improvements, because in reality we are, I would say much more than improvements, because we are working on the final model implementation. So the current version, we know it's let me say doesn't provide the full proof of the history. So it's let me say an interim release, no? For this reason also we called it beta. But in reality, what we are working on is some huge modifications to the SDK to provide the full Latus implementation. So as we know, in our roadmap, we have a final release that will contain the whole Zendu implementation and the Latus, let me say, also model implementation on the SDK side. So just to say that the current work on the SDK is mainly focused on that. For example, I mentioned before the UTXO Mercantry. I mean, from a user perspective, probably, or I mean, from the developer perspective, even could be transparent. Let me say, because the interfaces of the SDK are not going to be changed by this change, by these changes. But in reality, what we are working on is on the core of the SDK. So to be able to provide, for example, the data that will be required for providing the proof for the whole epoch, the proof that proves that everything worked as expected. Let me say. According to the consensus in the sidechain epoch. So, so for this reason, I'm not so sure to call them improvements. I mean, it's a huge work that we are proceeding on in let me say, finishing the SDK implementation with the final Latus consensus. And moreover, and just to make another example of what we are going to do on the SDK side in the next months, is to implement the incentive scheme. I mean, the rewarding model that, okay, previously I in the updates I mentioned about the final paper review about the Latus decentralized Axor reward model. So this is something that is part of the SDK. So how the proofs are exchanged between the peers and how they generate the proofs and how they identify the proofs to work on is something that belongs, I mean, to that area, to the SDK. So this is something that we are working on and is going to be the part of the final release. So this is just an example of something that is huge. Can you imagine? Here we are talking about creating, and you will see the paper, but I can anticipate something. We will have block proposals. So because we don't want to waste resources for having provers, these kind of actors that generate proofs, working on proofs that are not anymore, how to say, still usable. So for this reason, we will have a system for generating block proposals where the transactions that are supposed to be included in the block are shared in the network to the provers, and the provers will start working on these proofs. And if the next forger will follow the same list of transactions, even the proofs that were not included in the previous block will be included in the next one. I mean, maybe it's very, this is very, let me say, it's a very detail that probably is not so clear. But in any case, just to say, there are some parts that are going on that are key elements for the final release of the SDK.
Thank you, Alberto. So the next question is, what is the tokenization chain?
I could jump in on that. So it's work that Paolo and the product team have been doing to extend the SDK to make tokenization more robust. So you could technically tokenize like we did with the Lambo registry, but that was only meant as a placeholder, really to get developers, give them an understanding of how to start modifying the SDK for their own applications. This is going the next step deeper on tokenization, more robust in the SDK. And it's, again, just another step forward, but we're going to be doing significantly more here. And I would say that the goal is to have, in the not too distant future, a blockchain that's up and running and we just keep it live, for which people can, at least currently, go to our testnet and launch their own tokens. That would be the goal. We're not quite there. We're still modifying the SDK, but it's nice to see these discrete kind of week-long duration projects that Paolo and Rosario and the team are doing there on the product side. So more to come, but they're already extending it. So ultimately, what I'd like to see is a robust tokenization standard on Horizen. That's not what we're having right now by any means. This is still in the very early phases of extending functionality so that we can start going down that path. And guys, I'm sorry, I need to run here, so I'm going to miss the last question, but thank you.
And Rob, maybe if I can add something. I mean, regarding the tokenization example, I mean, it's meant to be another example that extends the car registry, the Lambo registry example, and show how to create new tokens. Obviously, it's meant as a next step after the car Lambo registry, and provides ways to, for example, issue a limited number of token types, and then for each token type, a specific token. But we will go on with this example and extending them to also reach, for example, real-world usage examples. So that can be used by the developers as a base for building their own sidechain and launching their own specific sidechain.
Thank you. That sounds really exciting because we do get a lot of questions from developers, and looks like everyone's really wanting to issue tokens. Okay, so last question: will the team create other dApps on Zendoo?
And I'm happy to answer that question.
Yes, please.
So yes, we'll certainly be creating other apps on Zendoo. Our team isn't infinite in size, so we're not doing everything in parallel. We're going to do some things in serial. But what's even more powerful than the team creating apps on Zendoo is enabling other software development teams to create their own side chains. And so that's why we're doing so much with doing the documentation, doing the webinars, doing the SDK, working with different software development teams to show them not only how they can do it, but to assist them, and also talk to them why it's useful for them to develop these side chains. One of the unique things about the Horizen side chains is that we have economic incentives built into the side chains for developers to develop side chains. So for example, if you develop a side chain that becomes popular, in the initial creation of the side chain design, that there can be a small portion of the funds that are transferred to the side chain paid to the people that created the side chain, the developers. There's also other economic incentives built in for the people that are running the block forgers, running the proof of stake on the side chain. So the way for us to get all sorts of different side chains up and running is to enable developers, both from a why should you do it? Why is Horizen the best for doing this? Because being able to run your own blockchain, that the validity of the blockchain that's running on the side chain is verified on the decentralized public main chain. I mean, that's a huge reason. The ability to bring people who have Java software development experience and have them develop in a Java SDK is huge. It's a differentiator. And then having the ongoing support for this. So the best way to get lots of different sidechain applications is to enable all these independent developers, and that's why our marketing team is doing such a focused job of gaining the identities of these developers, working with them, and encouraging them. Because when we go into full production on the main chain in Q1 of 2021, we want, and I'm sure the independent software developers want to have their software ready to go, fully tested, all the logic developed, all the applications developed, the front end tested, and that's a process that takes time. So now's the time to start doing the development, using the SDK, creating the front end, testing on testnet, so that the people that are developing their dApps on the Horizen sidechains will have it ready to go when we go into production. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rob. Really well said, and can't agree more. We are enablers, and this is exactly why we created an early adopter program, and we want to enable all the developers and provided all the tools necessary for you to build anything that you want on Zendoo. So thank you, and thank you everyone for coming to today's Weekly Insider. And remember, we host this live every Monday at 3:30 p.m. UTC on Discord and YouTube to give you the latest Horizen updates. So again, we have our quarterly live stream this Wednesday on YouTube. I hope to see you then. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.